Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Alexis Bonavita-Cola. I am the creator of Energy.Motion.Flow, the Beauty of Alcohol Inks and Beyond e-courses. I am walking you through a speeded up version of my Spring Tulip demo. And I used two pictures from Pixabay where they are free. And what I used here was translucent Yupo paper. And I am going over one of the tulips with a pencil, as you can see, because I want to make sure that I have the perfect shape for the tulip. And I used two pictures because I happen to like the color of one tulip and the shape of the other with the leaves and the contrast in the leaves. So I'm going to walk you through what I'm doing. Right now I'm masking in the tulip and I'm using fine line masking fluid to do this. But as I was using this particular masking fluid, I was not really happy with how this was coming out. I felt that the tip might have been clogged a little bit. So then I quickly switched to the masking fluid in a second after I moved it. I found this art masking fluid by Winsor & Newton, and I use this as well with a brush, a round tip brush. And then I decided that I was going to make sure that I really wanted those areas that I needed to be masked in to be done really well. Now, I knew when I was creating this piece that I wanted to preserve the shape of the flower, not necessarily the whites of the flower because those are going to be covered, and I knew I would use Snowcap by Adirondack by Ranger in order to add some white, but I wanted to, as much as possible, preserve the areas around there because I was going in after the masking fluid was completely dry with cool Perry and eggplant, and you'll see me do this in a minute where I'm actually pouring the cool Perry. That's cool Perry, which is beautiful. It has a really interesting pinky kind of feel to it around the edges where you could see it right up there. You could see how when it dries almost pink around the edges. And now I'm using eggplant to go in and create a deeper plum. And the reason that I chose these two colors was I knew that the piece that I was going to be working on was going to be kind of an orangey scarlet, and I know that the purple and orange are opposite on the color wheel, so when they sit close side by side to one another they create a beautiful pop of color. And I wasn't so concerned that the ink was going all over my flower because I knew that I would be able to get that out, which you will see. So now I'm using crumpled up waxed paper, which is a technique that I love to use with the alcohol inks. In the beginning, this piece is very, very wet, and so the wax paper is adding some interesting technique. It's actually, I had to change that. That was a little dirty. It's actually removing some of the ink, which you could see it doing, and then it could be adding it to other places as well. You know, you're getting ink on the wax paper, and then it's adding it. You're getting ink on the wax paper, and then you're adding it. Now I have a paper towel with alcohol, and I am just going over the flower. And I also know that the flower is really not going to be white, so it's no big deal because I'm going to be using inks to color it in. But I still want to, get out as much of the cool Perry and the eggplant as much as possible. And then you're seeing me just kind of, I know that I have alcohol, and so some areas that I want to lighten up, I'm just playing around here. Okay, so now I'm going to be removing the masking with my gloved hand and not my gloved hand. I'm going to be removing it. And now that's what the piece looks like with the masking fluid removed and with the alcohol also removing some of the darker areas. I take a little cup, and that's really my little palette. You could get little palette wells. Just if you are a watercolor artist, you're used to doing that. And I use raspberry, I use sunset orange and some lemonade, probably some butterscotch. For my greens, I'm using willow and a couple of other greens in here, but feel free to use the colors that you love. You know, take one of, go look at some of the tulips that are out now and, just, create anything to your heart's imagination. So one of the first things I did was start to use that raspberry up there, and poppy field is another color. So I kind of mixed them to create this really dark, kind of a magenta on the top. And so I know that I use those colors, and I'm going back to look at how the lighter areas are made whiter. And I'm taking a round number 6, and I'm really being very adventuresome, right? I'm just pouring a drop of the ink directly onto the paper. When you're working like this, you want to use a minimal amount of ink, especially when you're working in detailed work like this. This is not really my specialty. Those that follow me know that my specialty happens to be very abstract and a lot of energy, motion, and flow in my work. But every now and then I like to create a flower, a zebra, an elephant, and I just really love that feeling of keeping the inkiness in with the pieces that you're creating. So now I'm really getting, one with the tulip here. My hair got caught in the way there. Sorry about that. So now I have a flat brush, and I'm using a thin flat brush, as you could see. And I like that brush because when I use it on the side, I can get some really thin lines. I'm going back into the snow cap now because I really want to add some light contrast to that flower, to that tulip. And I will continue to tweak this. Now I'm going to start with the leaves. And so I'm just going to begin with some willow. I believe that's the color that I used there. And I use it just as if, I'm a regular watercolor painter or any kind of painter where I'm using a brush. Just keep adding in. Now I went into raspberry, adding some pink there, going back in. I continue to tweak this, always looking at the reference photo, which I have next to me. And so I have some blending solution used at the bottom there to wipe off my brush. It's next to the green I just dipped in there. And so that's allowing me to spread the inks a little bit more. And I'm just adding some more detail in with my leaves there, some lightness to just give it some, some value and tone. You want to add that when you're working in your pieces. You want to make sure that you're adding some value in as you're doing your work. And now you're going to see me add some lightness, and I will continue to add some dark areas as well. In a second, you're going to see me add some eggplant to the leaf to make sure there's always some contrast in there. Now just continuing to work in here, always looking at the leaf and the leaves, turning it around to get a better angle. And the inks dry very, very quickly, so you're pretty much okay. Although I would say your snow cap takes longer. Here I've added some eggplant, and that I wanted to do that because I wanted to bring in the color that was in the background in the leaves a little bit. Instead of adding just additional greens, I thought that this could definitely do the trick, and it did. I'm very happy. Now I take my white gel pen. A lot of times I use this for my signature, and I really like outlining just to create some different, just to make everything pop. I continue to tweak now because I'm looking at my other tulip, and I really love the fact that there's a lot of oranges in there and some coral in there. So I'm really trying to lighten this up a little bit and make the color pop a little bit. So I'm going to continue to play with that. And then I will take very shortly a fine tip black marker, and that is also going to add just a little bit of detail to my work. And there you have it. That's the piece. I'm very happy with how it came out. So hopefully you join me in one of my e-courses coming up soon. I'm glad that we spent this time together. Thank you.